Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I'm trying to figure out if I am able to use my second monitor, which doesn't seem to be working properly. But also, why are you telling HDMI 2? Yes, which means no signal. ¿Por qué no signal? I can hear you. I'm trying to figure out if I am able to.
I hear you.
Now I have second monitor. YouTube. There we go. Spitting sound back at me. So I will confirm with you first that I assume you have no problem just for fun streaming this live to YouTube on my personal account with basically no subscribers. So it's not like anybody's actually going to be watching this or we're giving away any proprietary information, but it's good testing on our end.
Absolutely.
And makes it a bit more searchable on my way home to get set up. Kip says that's good. And I need to let everybody know that we are not on court today and we All right, so Bobby, you won't be able to see me. You can hear me?
I can hear you.
See what you can do. Check in your video just for fun. See what you can do at whatever angle you can get to make your color more white rather than yellow.
I
Does
was
that make
wondering that
sense? There was a
myself.
thing you did. Oh yeah, there was a certain place where you did it where it was like the white light instead of the yellow light
Yeah.
for the whole thing, and it might just be a compute like how close you are. But yeah, oh that looks good.
Okay.
Don't move.
That's what we'll go with.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
almost there.
It's a song. What song is that?
Almost there. I don't know. I'm quoting Star Wars. And I don't know why my monitor's not working. No signal. Could it be the computer doesn't know it's there? So there's a discussion going on because I'm recently connected with Rich Nair. I guess that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And I like his question because everybody's claiming, even what's his name, John Hanna. The tennis is up 20%, or millions of new tennis players because of the
COVID
pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's projected numbers, or however they seem to figure it out, and they assume it with tennis ball sales and things like that. So Rich kind of asked the question, did the tennis warehouse sales corroborate the numbers? And then it's back and forth about, okay, well, there's 1,500 people that go into the survey, and then another guy's like, well, it's 18,000 people, and I'm like, where are the numbers? And they kind of go back and forth, and it's cool because it takes it back to the same way we're able to argue about facts from a political standpoint, or things like that.
There are damn lies and there are statistics.
Well, and even this, the fact is not there. It's like, well, I heard that 18,000 people. Well, I heard it was only 1,500, and I heard it was 7. And it's like, well, that's why Rich is asking the question to Tennis Warehouse specifically.
Right.
It's like, how did you come to this number? And I don't want a generic, we did the math. What's the math? We're interested. Nobody's claiming that, no, we didn't have any growth, but we certainly assume quite a few families at home probably played some tennis in their neighborhood, more so than they would have before, because it's a, good socially distanced sport.
Absolutely.
One of the early things that I asked on the social medias, what's the best socially distanced sport? The answer in my mind is golf, and next tennis.
And golf fails because of carts. That's the biggest part. We laughed because, the golf course opened before the tennis courts, and you'd be driving past the golf course and you'd have 2 people in a golf cart right next to each other. So and when you're teeing off, everybody's parked right next to each other. So I think tennis became the torchbearer for social distancing.
Yeah. Certainly. And they started changing some things about golf, and they went 1 cart a piece, and things got less efficient, but that's going to happen.
This is what I can tell you, because Wilson was very upfront about buying tennis ball. There was a worldwide tennis ball shortage. I mean, for a while, Wilson had maxed out.
Right.
They were done. Everything I've read, who benefited the most were the Dicks, the Walmarts, the Targets, not the Tennis Warehouse level, not the what we would, I guess, could traditionally call player market.
Right.
It was the families, like you said, who were looking for something to do, that bought the $45 tennis racket to go out and hit in the lawn. And you and I, we can put that and transpose it, as we always say about summer camps. Summer camps were not what you'd call marketing. They were money makers. They were parents who were looking for kids to do something during the day, did not necessarily translate to, once fall started, to your program, because they went back to doing what their normal after school activities were. I think, obviously it's what we talk about Alta, same thing. It gives you an opportunity because there's numbers to get new players, but is this driven by the sport? No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's inherent love of tennis.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we need some exercise.
Yes.
Let's see. For $20, we can buy a new tennis racket.
New tennis racket, $2 can of balls. It's a fairly decent entry price.
Yep. Agreed. But yeah, it's fun because it's now I listened to a few more minutes of that podcast with John Hanna, and kind of go, okay, well, what's John going to do to make himself interesting? Because the girl doing it was, I don't know that I wouldn't listen necessarily because of her.
Correct.
and she does a fine job, but I don't know what. Again, I kind of question myself, and I say, okay, why am I going to be better? But it was also a good reminder of I need to be better.
Yes.
Right. There needs to be a thing that's better than whatever that is.
No, and
Right.
I think that the questions start off. I mean, even with John, and I agree with it because John's a good friend of mine, and John and I are kind of like you and I. John, there's no 10-minute conversation.
Right.
There's nothing. I do not go into John saying I got 10 minutes, John. If I do have 10 minutes, I say, John, I have 10 minutes. I have to ask you one question, and then we're going to get off the phone, and and well, let's have lunch next week, type thing, because he's a very interesting guy. He's an extraordinarily friendly guy. And I didn't listen to it enough as well. But where I think the interest for John is to go beyond the standing talking points is just his relationships. What he can, what he's seen, what he's gone to, the Miami Open, where, he gets, if you get the feeling you're at a Davis Cup match in South America, just that's where you really tap into. And believe it or not, as conservative as, starch as he looks, he's a bit of a gambler when it comes to playing the stock market. He likes to dabble in the real estate market. He loves ping pong. Crazy ping pong player. So, these are the things I agree, because if you just ask the standard questions, well, somebody's doing that already. So,
right.
How do we breach that?
That was one of the things I've been reading on, because now I'm trying to become an expert in podcasting, having done exactly one of them. And that was what was one of the things. It was like, do extensive research.
Yes.
And sometimes it's things like that. Like the lady was like, and he's known as Johnny Pro-Am. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting, but it wasn't always a compliment.
Right.
Really full-time compliment.
Well, and she didn't take it because and again, I didn't watch the whole thing, but why does John play Pro-Ams?
Personally, I don't know. I figured it's fun, and you get paid.
He gets. No, it's not even that. It's his. He goes, and that's he'll tell you that. And again, I hope we can get him to say it. So, Bobby, think about our lives. We get paid to play tennis. I'm going out there looking for clients for Net News, looking for clients for Tennis Point. He said, what more can I ask for out of life? She.
Yeah, I guess
she took it very professional. Like I said, here's the business guy, John. John's a heck of a guy.
Yeah.
John hits two-handed both sides.
Yeah.
You talk to he's a player. Well, he's a darn good player.
Yeah.
Still playing, competing in professional pickleball events. So he's
I didn't know that.
Still got a Jones to compete.
But those are the kind of things that you're gonna know that she's not. Like if he's a big into ping pong, be like, oh, we're gonna have a ping pong day.
Yes.
Because all of us think we're good at ping pong.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
If you're a tennis player, not only do you think, like, everybody in the world thinks they're good at ping pong.
Right.
Till they meet a tennis player.
Right.
Who's actually good at ping pong. Then you got to find the hierarchy within tennis players.
Right. And then you find a ping pong player who kicks your ass because it's a whole different game at that point.
Well, no, playing an actual ping pong player is no fun at all.
No fun. Exactly.
But thankfully, nobody knows any of those. Like, there are like 20 of them in the world, and 19 of them are in Japan.
Exactly. They're not here.
But yeah, so that's kind of the stuff that it's, oh man, but I've known this guy for 20 years.
Yes.
And that's going to hopefully make it more interesting. And that's less about our format, less about our personalities, just more about who we're going to know, as opposed to just making the phone call and going, all right. And we finally got the college coach from Emory who we don't know, or whatever it is. And we're like, we're going to bring him in and talk to him because we think it's good for what? Is he interesting? Do we know him? Is it is it a conversation where we're going to bring up the questions, and that's going to be the scenario? I've got my questions in front of me. I've got my little introduction that I'm going to do. But there's the thing. It's like, okay, well, we're going to push. And we say, all right, king of tennis, what do you change?
Right.
All right. That is my favorite question.
Yeah. I mean, you've been doing this, and that's a great, and like I said, I hope John will get out of his box for that. And the good news is, John, get out of your box. If you watch it, if you feel like we're going too close to something, obviously we'll edit it out for you to take care of you.
Yeah.
So that's the good part about the format, is we can ultimately clean it up if you feel like you've gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are good guys. I mean, John is an unbelievably competitive guy. He used to go over to Netcord, with Bart, the guys who ran Netcord, Bart, and,
Yep.
and they'd play ping pong for hours. He hangs out with Trevor Short. Trevor will come over to John's house because John's got a blackjack table, and they'll play blackjack for hours. These are just, they're successful because they're competitive junkies.
Mm-hmm.
And, those are the type of things, like you said, knowing the guy that you can say, all right, John, we're going to take off the start shirt a little bit. Listen, don't put yourself down or play. Anybody could do this.
Yeah.
You're incredible. Like he said, he goes into the office. He's there all day. I mean, this is a motivated guy,
Yeah.
smart, and along the lines of what you and I parlayed that into a relationship with Tennis Point, and uses, and it's two different hats, but he uses those sponsors and he puts them on Tennis Point. So he can create packages per se between Net News and Tennis Point to sweeten the pot.
Yeah,
I
there you
mean,
go.
he gets so he's a great businessman as well. I mean, again, the thing is going to be to get him to open up about everything he's doing,
Sure.
because he is humble, but he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun.
Exactly. I see Kip. I'm going to let him in. We'll get him warmed up with us.
Yeah, because Kip, I already made
very
the call to his
backlit
former
Kip.
boss.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Kip's doing the you're gonna do the distorted voice as well. He's look like he's in one of those rooms where we're not allowed to see your face.
No, that's so funny. Let me close my blinds. I didn't even realize that was happening.
There we go.
Oh no, actually, you just turned a little bit to the side, and now you're good. So if you want to, yeah, okay, there you go.
How's that?
Yes, that's much better.
There we go.
Much better. I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing the whole hidden face thing. I like it.
Look at you guys, man, you look like pros in there with the microphones and everything, man. This is fancy.
This is something I've been, not this specifically, but it's something I've been tuned up for a while. As a musician at heart, I've got the recording background. So to be able to break out some of the stuff that I was using for songwriting and now use it for this, it's kind of nice. It was like, oh my gosh, look at the microphone. I'm like, yeah, but it's been sitting in a drawer for 4 years.
It's so funny because my son is studying sports management down in Georgia Southern, and I don't know what he's going to do with it, to be honest with you. And I've got a couple friends who started some football podcasts that I follow on Twitter, and I've been talking to them lately. And it dawned on me, gosh, not even a month ago, and I was like, I'm surprised there's no Atlanta tennis podcast. And then you texted, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. That's really weird.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because I've always thought it's a big thing. I mean, if you look at the Facebook pages, Atlanta area tennis players and other things, I mean, if you can get the following, it's going to be a thing.
Well, and that's going to be our key, and that's what Bobby and I have been talking about for the last few weeks, to where this is one of the times he and I have been saying, okay, yeah, we really just need to get this done and get it started and get going. Absolutely. And that's that real question. How do we go from 0 to 1,000 listeners on the first day?
Sure.
That's got to be an option. We've got to figure that out, rather than the other tennis podcast that has 32 views. And at some point you do 100 of them and you look up and go, all right, we're wasting our time here.
This guy that I'm talking about, it's actually, if you want to look it up, the show's called The J-Boy Show, and his name is Jake Crane. His father was a famous Auburn linebacker called Kurt Crane.
Okay.
So Jake has been a coach, been a player, was living in Alabama, and he literally started this podcast mostly for Auburn people, but it's become an SEC thing.
Okay.
And now he just literally moved from Alabama and now is doing it in a studio in Atlanta. And blown up. Like, he's in the top, I think, 30 or 40 downloads now on iTunes or something.
Oh, man. Southern college football. It's definitely a market if you can do it right.
Yeah, but I would love to, if you want me to make an intro, he's a young dude. But he would be, I'm sure, glad to hook up with you guys and just chat a little bit.
That'd be awesome.
Because he's killing it now. I mean, he sounds like he's doing really well.
Good. We're looking to make friends, and that's part of why we're doing this as well. Which
Well,
is,
anytime. I mean, I'm more than welcome, and if I can help you, get guests and stuff, I think it's you guys will. I think in you're around it, Sean. But I mean, it just from a content side, even just talking about the trials and tribulations of how the players in Atlanta and the different stories and the things that you can go with. I mean, I think the content is limitless.
I think so too. And just to let you know, I'm stacking playing with this. We are not recording. We're recording, but we're not recording for anything that I expect to use currently. I got to cut this back a little.
That's fine. And whenever you're ready, I know you were trying to do sound and everything. So whenever you're ready, just let me know.
And we are technically we're live on YouTube, but it's on my YouTube channel, and it's me and my mom and my wife listening. So it's for testing purposes. But I heard, was it you that played a match up at Windermere and ran into Bobby recently? Did you guys actually same room, same time last few weeks?
Kip, did you play at Windermere last month?
Not last month, but
in the fall?
I was there in the fall.
Okay.
Played. Yes, the team that I was captaining, the A1 team out of Village Grove, we played Avi's team at Windermere. Yep.
Yeah,
so I was on that team.
You came up courtside. I was given a lesson. I don't play. My shoulder's shot. But I was given a lesson. You came up courtside and talked, very kind. And I kept looking, and I was like, I know that guy. That guy. And I went over to Avi, and he said, Kip. And I said, oh, my God. I said, I haven't seen Kip in a long time. I said, we both didn't have facial hair. And, our hair was longer. But it's
in the gray.
In the gray, exactly. I play that. I call that the toothpaste. The bleach from the toothpaste is bleach.
Bobby, are you able to turn down your microphone volume?
Let me
just
see.
Barely. Do you have that?
I should
ability on your end, or know where it is?
Yeah. How's that?
Much better.
Brought it down, and I was trying to. My biggest problem is once I get excited, my elevation goes up.
Me too.
Well, we're tennis guys. We can get loud.
We can get loud.
And I don't have yet quite, like, if you had certain microphones on your end, or if we were all in the same room here, if we were in the studio, I can adjust all of that. But then also I've got noise limiters. So for me, I can get crazy loud and the volume's going to be there, but it's not going to pop anything. And actually on my end in the studio, I can keep it from going above a certain decibel rate, but that's just because of the fancy stuff that I've got. And I'm guessing a lot of guests aren't going to have that. So
that's why I put the AirPods in, because I've noticed on ESPN and a lot of times when people are being interviewed, they always seem to be wearing their AirPods. So I figured that would probably help with some background noise and stuff. But if you want me to take them out, I can do that too.
Actually, how long does it take you to take them out, turn them off, and test it the other way? Out of curiosity. Okay.
2 seconds.
All right, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
And the question is, is the sound of an open room better than the sound of an AirPod?
So let's see, because I've got nothing going on. Now, I doubt you can hear it, but my sister-in-law's in the downstairs on conference calls, so you probably can't hear her. My dog is resting, so you're probably not going to hear anything except me.
Yeah, and that's good. I actually like this. Bobby, you like this better than the AirPod sound on your end?
I will say, from my sound, he sounded better on the AirPods.
Oh, okay.
He sounds more like he's in an open room, where he was sounding more directly to us when the AirPods were in.
Yeah. All right. Stick them back in for me, Kip, and we'll compare the other way. Trying to figure out if open room clarity is better than the little bit of muffled AirPod.
Okay, I'm back on.
All right, count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Bobby, your opinion?
It can go either way. It sounds more. I will say it sounds more personable here, because I think it's easier to speak into. There's no inhibitors. It's just more natural.
And hold
Okay.
on one second, because now that I say that, y'all are still actually coming through. You're coming through my speakers on my computer and not on my AirPods.
Oh, okay.
That's weird, because I heard the ding from my AirPods. I can hear background noise, but I can't hear you.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, with I haven't used anything wireless with Zoom, but if you select a speaker, you should have USB or AirPod on your little microphone guy there.
Let's see.
Could always be worse. My father's a technology guy. He was he's of the right age that he was kind of working on the technology when we invented the mainframe concept, when one computer talked to another, and he's been in technology his whole life, but his concept is that he's paid his bills and raised a family on the fact that computers don't work. And in his mind, that's just how it always is. There's always going to be a problem. And if that wasn't true, he wouldn't have been able to feed his family. And I think that's a negative way to look at the world. It's like, if you're always assuming it's not going to work, I think he's actually generating things not working, where I assume it's just always going to magically connect. Oh, now I got nothing out of Kip. I have zero sound from you. And I wonder, as Zoom
How about
records, there, you're back.
Yeah, I'm luckily I'm over here and I'm selecting a different thing. So now I've got selected speaker, my AirPods, and selected microphone is my built-in microphone internal.
Yeah, that'll be the computer.
So now I'm hearing through you guys. I'm hearing through my AirPods, but I think I'm speaking through the microphone on my MacBook.
Sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like open room. And there's a setting, I'm trying to remember where it is. I think it's in audio settings, where you can select a setting to suppress background noise.
Okay.
And in that case,
Audio
if you've got
settings.
if you just go to audio settings, they're right about halfway down to suppress background noise. And if you've got a dog that might bark or somebody walking around upstairs, you can turn that to high, and it'll cut out even as much of the background noise as it magically can.
Okay, so automatically adjust microphone volume, not that, right?
No.
Use separate audio device, play ringtone, join audio by computer when joining a meeting.
And I don't know if you have different settings than I do. I have automatically adjust microphone volume, but right below that I have suppress background noise, and I've got 4 options: auto, low,
Let me see if it's in advanced, because it's saying, here it is. I found it.
Okay. And,
So-
and medium's a good thing, because it won't hear your mouse click, and it won't, it'll just kind of take some of the little things away.
Yeah, so maybe moderate, or right now it's on
There you go.
auto.
And auto is fine. I'm just thinking, if you'd mentioned earlier about other people in the house and the dog taking a nap, and it's not a big deal if we have a dog bark. It's not that kind of podcast yet.
That yet, but it will be one day.
That's the goal. And
Acting like pros from the moment you hit go, right?
Well, and it's one of those things that I try to make sure, if we're actually going to do something, we're going to do it well.
Right.
And if your reputation is also going to be part of this, as is Bobby's, if it's just me and I'm at Ankle Biters and Ankle Biters Tennis Facebook and we're doing a fun interview, it's just me on the line. Like, I can do it as poorly as I want. But in this case, we're trying to be better at it. And we might as well take it serious from the beginning. But not so serious that we're stiff and boring, because part of what we're doing here, if not most of what we're doing here, is how do we make this podcast interesting? That's what Bobby and I were talking about in the pre-stream, which is, you listen to some of the other podcasts. There's a couple other tennis podcasts out there, and you're just like, okay, this is nice. I know John Hanna, and I'm bored. I'm still bored, and I know that guy.
I always love, and I don't know if they're well receptive or not, but I enjoy telling them. But I think an idea is just talking about stories of, what happens on Thursday women's tennis, or, what happened at the Saturday men's match, or the Sunday, or, without giving names and getting too scandalous of just, the trial. Hey, this is what I saw this weekend. Let's talk about it.
Yep.
A ferocious line call, from the lady at the net that was standing at the left net post. A ball was clearly on the line, and she called it out from a totally wrong angle. Something like that. I think, I guess it depends on who you're trying to get on, but like all of a sudden I could see a lot of people listening to it just to get, hear the stories of what happened on game day,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Always
that could be fun. I know Bobby's got a lot more stories working at a club than I do, because mine are just fun. Mine are fun kid stories, and I've got thousands of them. But between all of us, we should have enough. I'm trying to find if I can.
Kip, the line means it's good except on Thursday.
Oh my God, so true. That is so. It's hilarious. And it is literally one of my pet peeves when the person, at the net makes a wide line call for the person that's running wide, and she clearly sees it out when the partner going to hit the ball. And then I love when the partner says, "Well, I was just trying to hit it."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that means you were watching the ball, right?
So you have a pretty good idea where it landed.
If you didn't call it, but your partner because I love showing teams like, hey, is this in or out? And I walk them over to that spot. Oh, that's out. Okay, well, come over here. Look at this. Like it's physically impossible for you to see that ball near the line. It's hilarious.
We get fun things like that as coaches.
Yep, all day.
But yeah, we want the stories. We're perfecting the format, of course, and the thing that we're also going to ask, and that's why I like this. Let's schedule an hour, maybe for a 15-minute podcast.
Sure.
And to try to get the best content that we can, because as guys who can talk, as tennis guys, we could probably go back and forth for a couple of hours among the three of us. But is there really 15 minutes worth of good stuff?
Right.
And it allows me at the end in post-production is I can say, okay, well here, yeah, Bobby talked about a thing that was uninteresting. And then I went on a tangent and that was pointless. And we can trim it and clean it up and say, all right, well, it's the same thing Joe Rogan does. It's 3 hours of just two dudes talking. And then they take a 30-second clip and a picture of Elon smoking a joint and everybody watches.
It goes viral. Exactly.
Yeah. I think from the YouTube standpoint, don't we want to shoot for 15 minutes?
I believe, 15 minutes is a good target.
That's a good target because that gets you, if it ever got to that point, you'd have a couple of opportunities for ads. So you want to get it to at least 15 minutes for the commercial side of it. But Kip, you've already you gave me, first of all, if you ever need to talk, I have a master's degree in sports marketing. It's what your son is doing. So I can tell you my trials and tribulations. I was going to jokingly ask earlier, can your son coach? Because that might be the best way. But I live a dual life. I do part of it on the court and part of it I try to stay in the business side. That's why I have such a good relationship with John.
There you go.
Be more than happy to spend a couple minutes with your son. I would tell him always learn how to sell.
Yeah.
When you start, if you truly want to go into the business side of it and go into a franchise or a team, they're going to stick you in tickets to start.
Yep.
To see whether or not
they're always going to start you in the grunt work.
Exactly. And to see whether you'll survive it. Craig Hoover is a good friend of mine. I don't know if you ever met Craig back in the day.
Yeah.
Craig was part of the infamous me, Billy Pate, and Craig Hoover apartment.
Oh my God.
That's what I said.
Billy, y'all three lived together?
We lived together. Craig lived in what we called, it was the sunroom, and you had to put up doors. There was
that had to be in Dunwoody then. That had to be in Dunwoody.
We believe it. What is it called? Right over by DeKalb Tennis Center. Famous sports bar. That was our.
What's that place called?
It's right off Druid Hills, but it has a name. Toco Hills.
My wife's from there. My wife grew up down in that area.
Beautiful downtown.
That is so funny.
Toco Hills. That was the three of us were in the apartment together while we were going to grad school. And Craig's first job with ProServe was ball boy. He trained the ball boys. And, we both gone for that job, and I didn't get the job, obviously. And I just left. I was like, they knew there was no, I'd kill a ball boy. There was no way I was gonna be a
man.
ball boy trainer, but and now Craig's vice president of, what are they? Live Nation now. They've been bought so many times.
Isn't that funny?
So, yeah, so
that is so funny. Well, and when I was with a hole-in-one promotional company. It was with two, actually. I worked at American Hole-in-One a while back, and then I also worked at Advantage Hole-in-One. And the owner of that's Doug Donnelly, who was White Lightning for the Dallas Cowboys, played for Tom Landry, played at Ohio State. So Doug hired me away when he started his business, and I ran sales for him. And so I used to do all the crazy, insurance policies for the half court shots,
right,
and, giveaways for cars, for hole-in-ones and all that stuff. So I got to meet a lot of the IMG, Learfield, Fox Sport Properties, all the colleges and stuff. And I really could see my son doing that. And I'm like, hey man, you ought to talk to these people, because I think my son would be really good inside an athletic department.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he had ambitions when he got in college. He was going to be the next Kirk Herbstreit. He's a former high school football player, played at North Gwinnett, was on the high school championship team a couple years ago,
right,
wide receiver. But I was like, Cam, Kirk Herbstreit played, quarterback at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Regardless of, he already had that clout walking
Name
in.
recognition.
Like, absolutely. You're not just coming in because you know X's and O's. And
I'm naming my child Tom Brady, by the way.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead and start with that.
That's fantastic. So yeah, but I would love to, I'd love to take you up on that and have him talk to you if you don't mind. That would be amazing.
Did you work with Mick Luckhurst?
I did.
Okay, good. We met again. I met with Mick.
We did.
On what you guys were based off of 85 again.
Right up here in Buford, man. Right up in Buford. Well, and if I'm being real candid, Mick's not my favorite person, man. I made it there about a year.
No worries, no worries.
It could have been a really fun job that they really tried to make buttoned up. Not a lot of interaction, not a lot of fun,
right,
if you will. And Doug was there too, and that's how I met Doug. Doug left. He was the VP, started his own company out of Dallas, Texas. And then I was like one of his first employees. Yeah, so I was director of sales for Doug with those guys for about 4 years.
Because we met with Mick trying to do something in tennis, trying to figure out how could we bring the hole-in-one concept to tennis when we were.
And I actually created a tennis game with that. I built targets and did like a little serving challenge. It never really took off, but I tried to sell it to a couple people like, hey, have a mixed mixer and then, charge, I don't know, 10, $15 a person. And you get to try to hit a serve through this target that's set up. It's a little 9-inch hole. And if you do it, you win a new Porsche. I don't know. Yeah. I tried to create a couple things and never really kind of took off, and really didn't.
Those are such good things that we need to do more with.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm hoping conversations like this go, holy crap, that's a great idea.
That's
a great sponsorship idea. It's a raffle concept of, throw the beanbag in the clown's mouth, but we make it tennis specific and we make it family. So it's not just the tennis players. A dad can come in and go, I'm a man, I can hit a ball with a stick, and get everybody out there.
But think about this. And now think of where it was when I was 10 years ago, when you didn't have the social media and the viral craze. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one click of a button. I'll give you a great example. So my daughter and I are watching this Auburn basketball game the other night, and the Texas A&M coach is literally, right before halftime on the floor, like almost behind our player as he's trying to pass the ball, where he's almost, if our player would have backed up, he would have tripped him. He was that far on the court, down the corner. So I took a video of it and said, what is this clown doing? Now, I have a lot of followers on Twitter, Auburn fans, right? I posted this thing. This thing ended up going nuts and getting like 80,000 something views.
Oh, wow.
It went completely crazy. Barstool Auburn retweeted it. And it was just me doing a quick little stupid video and posting it on Twitter, and it went nuts. Yeah. And my daughter was so pissed that she didn't do it.
She didn't get the likes.
Well, because she's a student at Auburn. She's a sophomore down at Auburn.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here on the couch, and she's like, "Oh my!" And all of her friends are calling her, going, "Oh my God, have you seen your dad's tweet?" And she's like losing her mind, pissed off that she didn't do it.
Missed
And
opportunity.
she's the one I think that even pointed it out to me, so it was even funnier. But to my point, sorry, I digress there. But I mean, with what we're doing now, it doesn't take a whole lot, I don't think, for something just to go bonkos, right? If it's a hot topic.
Yeah, and I think those are the kind of conversations we want to have. We want to create that comfortability,
Sweet.
where we don't have to use phrases like, "Well, if I'm being honest," we
Right.
just talk. Like, wait a minute, when were you before you weren't being
lying.
honest? Like,
Right.
that's
Right.
that's a key thing. Somebody says that to me, I'm like, if we're being on, are we awake? Like,
it's one of those things that I think people just get in the habit of saying, and they don't even realize it. It becomes a vocabulary thing.
Yeah,
it's like, do you realize what you're saying?
Colloquialism to have me take this next thing seriously. Does that mean everything before this doesn't count?
So are we keeping it real now?
Yeah, no, for real. Real talk now. Okay.
Real talk.
And the
Exactly.
good part about, and the frustrating part about tennis is what brings this up is that all these things that you've talked, there's a great 50-50, you see it in the stadiums now of the raffle for the day. And, and we went to the highest level speaking to that guy about taking it. And I think we did such a good job pitching it that they decided to put a bigger effort into themselves, because we wanted to take it to NASCAR. We were like, give us 5 NASCAR races and just that'll be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And, the guy, unfortunately, our contact left and went to the PGA. But again, we spoke to Mick Luckhurst's company back in the day of the senior tour. It's all been kicked around. It's unfortunate. Tennis is very conservative because of the financial, obviously.
It is. It is.
There's just not a lot of money, and people don't realize that. The first year the senior tour was here, they had the senior tour, which was run by Ray Benton, who was Jimmy Connor's agent and the founder. Well, this was this first time they ever did a franchise where they sold the event to somebody. They came in and helped manage it, but they sold it to a gentleman who had made money in telecom and was looking something to do with his money, wanted to have fun with his money, and made some outlandish promises. Guy ended up losing $600,000, and I don't care if you got 40 million, nobody wants to lose 600,000.
No.
It crashed and burned, and everything was based on finances and money. And it was unfortunate. And, even back then, they'd always ask me, is it a mandate? Because you'll hear McEnroe say he got paid to be an ass. And I'm like, well, I've sat in on meetings. I never heard that. Now, if anybody wanted to argue whether or not we wanted to get Jimmy to the weekend, because historically, you buy, Jimmy's playing Wednesday night, you're buying the ticket. You want Jimmy playing in the weekend because that's your walk-up ticket. Right. So yeah, we wanted Jimmy to win to get to Saturday and Sunday type thing. That's open to discussion, but
I hear price fixing's a thing. Match fixing happens.
It's
even on the senior tour. You got to have your big name in the final. What happens if you don't have Query playing Isner in the BBT final? I mean,
it's tough.
Tired of watching that.
I'll
be honest with that one. I'll be honest with you. I'm tired of that.
That's right.
I'll be honest with it. That's great.
So one of the good things we've got is for us now, as the podcast that happens, as the conversation that happens where we're not in the same room,
right?
With the video really helps us to know when somebody's smiling and to have that personal interaction and body language, and it makes the conversation
the energy. Absolutely. Yeah.
That kind of energy, like you say. But it doesn't necessarily mean we'll ever use the video. I mean, it's going up there. Maybe someday somebody finds it, but we'll also, like I said, my 8 YouTube subscribers, I think I'm 4 of them on 4 different devices. If that becomes a thing someday, that's great. And that's good for all of us. And we can go back and make some adjustments if we say something ridiculous. But I want to make sure everybody knows, this video, this whole thing. And just like the Joe Rogan concept, the long form exists out there if somebody really wants to trudge through the 3 of us talking, but we'll cut it back to what's really good and say, all right, here's our beginning and end. We'll throw some bumper music in there. I'll download some fun little sounds that happen, and we'll decide how, not to get too ridiculous with it, because people find that cheesy.
Hey, well, and then I can, post it on mine. I've got 29 followers. So, I mean, we could, it could be amazing. I think my best video's got like 88 views, man. So
I like it. Well, in that case, we'll get Bobby an account.
That's right. I have to,
and we'll be his first 2 followers.
That's right. That's right.
But
I'll get my kids to follow too. So we got at least 4.
I like it. Wives count too. Ex-wives don't count.
No.
That just means they're tracking us.
That's just trouble.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think sounds okay. Let me run through. I've got a little intro that I'm going to do.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to keep the intro consistent. This may change as early as next time. And we'll kind of have a beginning, but basically everything that has happened up until now is fair game. If Kip at some point at the end, and we'll go through this quickly, at some point at the end, you're like, hey, by the way, I think I mentioned a client's name and I needed to not do that, or, whatever it is. If you pay attention to what we said.
Yeah, I might even be the next day, like, ooh, man, right. I really shouldn't have said that.
Oh, crap. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we do want the freedom to be able to feel like we can say whatever we want.
Of course. It's the way it should be.
And that's the goal. The whole point is, let's talk about the people and be like, you know what? I really just don't like that guy. And I want to be able to say that kind of thing.
That's good. If I'm being honest.
If I'm being honest, I want to be able to say things like that, right? That's what we should call that should be our tagline. Not it starts with tennis, but if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I had it all written out where Bobby comes back with a thanks, Sean. I appreciate you having us. So if Bobby, you want to go through that, we can. Otherwise, we can stick. I don't know if you had it printed out to sit in front of you.
I was just looking at my.
It's not a big deal. I can get through it and get to Kip, and we'll start asking him the questions and go through it that way.
Yes, I think
if it's not something you spent any time reading aloud to yourself before now, let's skip it.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I'm trying to get a feel for. That's why we're doing these.
Yeah.
Get all of it where we need to go.
So I'll get us into the first question. Our favorite question, Kip, between the two of us is honestly if you're king of tennis, what would you change? And that puts some pressure on. So I would like you to be honest at that point. If you haven't been up until now,
that was the only one that I really had to think about for a minute. Like I really
don't you?
That. Right.
I mean, we're guys that usually have the standard answer to everything
off the cuff.
Even if it's a joke, we've got the answer. But that one, you go, well, hang on.
Right.
Ooh.
And it's funny. And I also feel like it's going to be something because I do have my answer for it. But then I think it's going to be one of those I'm going to think about, damn it, I really wanted to talk about this, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good part about being the king, though. You can.
That's true.
If something else pops into your head and say, okay, because you're right. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into that. You get your first one, your strongest one, but then wait, there's a secondary one. So
there's a secondary one. Yes.
Change your mind.
That's
always add to it later.
Exactly. That's where we can go. That's the whole design is to go.
All right. I'll get through this. We'll go to question one. Bobby, if you haven't practiced a lot of this, we'll just have you follow me.
Yes.
At this point, if you're good with that.
I'm good with that.
All right. So we'll have intro, blah, blah, blah. We'll have some music. We're working on a logo. I've paid a guy in Pakistan to put that together, the Atlanta Tennis Podcast logo. Yeah, he's my guy in Pakistan. You got to have a guy.
There you go. You got to have a guy. And in Pakistan, why not?
I also need to ask about your logos, and we'll get to OTR and all the stuff you're doing. So we'll find out how you put that together. But we'll get going here. Every other time we talk. All right, I'm not going to do that. So I'll just run through this as I'll try to make it sound like I'm not reading it. We'll see how that works. All right. Hey, this is Sean with Atlanta Tennis Podcast, where every conversation starts with tennis, but may not end with tennis. We're in the Rejuvenate studio in Duluth, Georgia. And this episode, we talk with Kip Cobb, and we will get to that in just a minute. But right now, I'd like to thank our previous guest, who is actually the owner of the Rejuvenate studios in Duluth, Georgia, and full disclosure, my wife. So I'm a little bit biased. But we spoke with her, and we'll get you to that link in the links below, and you can check that out when you get the chance. If you are interested in listening to our conversation with that, like I said, we'll put the links below, and we'll make sure all of that is available to you. With me today, as always, is Bobby Schindler. We're recording in the studio just outside of Atlanta, which is why we call this thing the Atlanta Tennis Podcast. We definitely do not limit ourselves to talk exclusively about Atlanta tennis, but that's where we live. So that's where we're going to start. Bobby, how's it going?
All right, Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. We got Kip here as well. We'll say hi to him, but I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to give Kip no chance, put him completely on the spot, and we're going to pretend we didn't send him an email ahead of time. And we're just going to throw him right onto the spot. Who are you and why do we care?
Man, Kip Cobb, born and raised in the Atlanta tennis market. Probably started playing, was 4 or 5 years old. Both parents played. Just grew up around the game, had some fantastic coaches, and just lived and loved the Atlanta tennis scene for a long time. 47 years old now.
47 years old. I wouldn't have brought up how old I am. I mean, I'm only 33.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's good.
Right. I think Bobby's 33 as well.
I'm obviously the granddad in this picture. So, that's okay.
So you grew up playing in Atlanta?
Yes, I did. Born and raised, and I know that that's a rarity now. Not a lot of people are from. Yeah, that's right. There's not many of us left, brother.
Bobby was
not many of us left
up north, right?
I grew up on Long Island, New York. Yes.
Oh, Long Island tennis. That's a different thing.
Completely. But I'm a Southerner since 17. I went south, went to the warmth in Texas, and have never left the South since. So.
Okay, so you're like me with less of the accent of that sounding like you're from Georgia.
It will come out. I'm trying. I'm going to be good.
From time to time, right? Time to time.
Exactly.
I like it. So Kip, you said 4 years old you started tennis? Was that?
Yeah, started playing at 4. Remember kind of picking up a racket. Awesome. Don't know if you remember Terminus down in the Marietta, Windy Hill area.
That was way too far away from me.
Yeah, then spun off to Atlanta Health and Racket Club. So I remember having a racket in my hand early on. My mom was a AA player. My dad was an A player. Remember them coming home and, grabbing the tennis racket and swinging around the living room. No telling how many things I broke in the living room back then. Because that was a full-size racket now. They didn't have junior rackets back then.
That's the same thing. I started at 9, full-size racket. Now we have all the fancy new equipment.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. So your parents were tennis players. So that's obviously what got you into tennis, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. They both got me into it, but I was also lucky just with all the coaches. When I started taking coaching early on, the Joe Becknells, Woody Hoblitzel, Mike Leach, Danny Alea, Evo. I had so many coaches, Jerry Baskin, coaches from top to bottom that I all took from, and I'm probably leaving some out. So if they ever see this, I apologize if I forgot to mention you.
They can call us and come on the show and
exactly.
Make sure we know that Kip is one of their products.
Yeah, and I think from that coaching also kind of kept me around the game and also inspiring to one day be a coach myself.
I like it. Yeah, I was on the growing up in Atlanta myself. I was in the Gwinnett side.
Yep.
So I was Dave Matthews and a lot of the guys over here. And you mentioned you mentioned the clubs that I know now because of that Marietta side, but when I was a kid, that was the other side of the world.
No, it was, and I know you didn't even ask this question, but that brought me up this way. I know we all have a mutual friend in Billy Pate, but Billy Pate was my assistant coach in college. And actually, when I left, my first pro coaching job was the Tucker Racket Health and Fitness Center in Tucker, Georgia, straight out of college. I was charging a whopping $25 for an hour private, and I got 100% of it.
That's
and
nice.
I thought I'd made it.
That's what I charged for my first tennis lesson too.
Yep. And then literally left there. Billy hired me. He and Angela Owens and went to the Concourse Athletic Club at the King and Queen buildings. And that's where probably the real coaching career began, there with those guys, and where I ended up meeting my wife there also. So 22 years ago, almost to the day.
Kip, just so you know, I did call Billy, so I am a fact checker. So don't go too far out of line because Billy's giving me all the background. On top of, I do remember the good old concourse days and the Sunday pool.
There you go. Yes, the Sunday pool, and I've got plenty of stories on Billy, so he's got to be careful about that fact checking thing. I got something on him too.
I lived with him. I got a lot on him.
I bet you do. Oh yeah.
We'll have to start a dirt. What dirt do you have on What Tennis Pro page on the site?
Oh, exactly. That's a good one.
PG.
Right, that's a good selling point. Be like, all right, look, for $20 a month,
right?
We'll get you in, and you can learn all the dirt you need to learn about your tennis. It's probably a bad idea considering we like most of our friends.
Yeah, no doubt. That could get hairy quickly.
Get us in trouble.
Absolutely.
Got to be careful with the fact checking. But that's fun because you were a few years ahead of me playing in this area, but we would have known each other by name only really anyway, because we'd see each other twice a year at, well, where was that? At North Fulton and South Fulton. And that was basically
Right.
all we'd run into each other.
Or some pro-am. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah. And I was thinking back, that's fun. Well, we're bringing in guys like you to have the most interesting conversations we can possibly have. The interesting thing about that is I haven't figured out who decides what an interesting conversation is. So we've crafted magic questions to like lead us along the path to get us there. And my favorite question right now, and Bobby agrees with me, it's our current favorite question. And we'll throw it at you to see where this leads us. And we've got a few minutes. We can let it ramble on. If we need to, if we need to talk as long as we need to talk about something interesting. I'm not saying we have to go like complete John McEnroe troll women's tennis, but you say whatever we want here at some level. If you were the king of tennis, what would you change?
Oof. Man. Well,
king of tennis, anything in the world, maybe a flat out here, you know what, we need to just abolish this completely.
Yeah.
And again, nobody's king of tennis, so we don't get to hold anybody accountable, and maybe the idea leads to something more reasonable.
Right. Well, here's it's kind of two-part, right? So one of the biggest things that has driven me crazy from being a coach, especially with somebody who's new to tennis, whether it's, and mostly kids, but also adults, I would say, is the scoring. I would change the scoring to a more simplified way. When you're trying to teach a kid, I love watching my little 7 and 8 year olds when we start doing scoring for the first time, and I go 15, 30, and they all go 45. And I go, no, 40. And they all look at me, and they look over at their parents, and they look back at me like, no, you're kidding. It's a joke, right? And then all of a sudden you throw in the word deuce, or the add in, add out. And from a coach's standpoint of trying to teach them the game quicker, that's one thing. The second thing, and it's more of a modern day issue that I have, is the new lines. I cannot stand the blue lines on the tennis court for the kids. I love the ball idea. Love the orange, green dot, red dot. I get all that. That makes sense to me. I get it. The lines are ridiculous. They're confusing for kids to try to teach the newbies. Not just that, but if you've ever noticed, if you're standing on the blue baseline of a kid baseline on one side, and you try to look over and find the blue line on the other side, it is very difficult to do. So if you're the kid on the other side, you don't even know if your shot's in or out most times. You don't even know if it's that close. So that also bothers me, because you could have a kid not telling the truth and saying out when the ball was, not even an inch in, but a foot in. And you wouldn't.
I think I know that kid.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm sure we all do. Absolutely. So those are I know that's twofold. Those are the two things. If I'm king of tennis, I'm making those changes.
I like it. You know what I want to do? I'm going to throw Bobby a softball here. You pick one, I'll take the other.
Well, the first one is easy. I always use the line when people ask me about the scoring. I say, well, remember, the French invented the game. So there's no need to go any further.
C'est très vrai.
We're done, right?
So
it's
true.
blame it on the French. We're done. And as far as the balls are concerned, from a coaching perspective, it's frustrating. You're telling the kid to swing out, and yet we're giving them loaded ammunition and then not allowing them to swing and hit the ball as hard as they can because we've shortened the court. So it's.
Oh, but we have to make it fair for everybody. It's
Yes.
got to be equal playing field. We can't have the kid who's dominating anymore because it's not fair to little Johnny.
Little Johnny, gotta be careful.
Little Johnny came home. He's upset. Yeah. Little Johnny's upset because he got beat really bad. But I'd like to just tell little Johnny, hey, work harder, get better.
That's very fatherly of you. Are you gonna give him a motherly hug?
Yeah, exactly. No participation trophies in the Cobb household.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll go the opposite route from Bobby because I'll take the other side of both of your ideas.
Okay.
The scoring, and maybe this is how we try to figure out the evolution from why we do the kids starting with just learning a tiebreaker. Number one, I think that's perfect because a tiebreaker is probably actually, I think, more confusing for the kids with the switching of the serve and how it works. So learning the tiebreaker, I also think the tiebreaker is the most important game we play in tennis, considering when it's played and what it means. So starting the kids with that and the length of the scoring, I like it. Now, that's not a no. If you were king of the world, I'd vote against. Do you vote against kings? I don't think it works that way.
You don't get a vote.
No, I just got to hope I'm the court jester and not the guy who gets his head lopped off.
Exactly.
I think tennis scoring is the most genius thing ever invented. I think it is absolutely elegant. It allows to actually track and score and reward momentum. As a basketball guy, Bobby, you're a basketball guy, right? I just made that up. It's about you pretend to be a basketball guy. Sure. As a basketball guy, Bobby, if you have this momentum in this basketball game and the swings and the excitement, and at the end of the game you lose by 1, you can't look at the score and know anything about the game, but you could look at tennis score. You look at a tennis match and go, what happened there? Oh my gosh. I win the set 7-6. And then all of a sudden what happens? I'm down love 3. And I got to figure that. I think it's so elegant. Is it confusing? Sure. And it comes down to the tennis coach to be able to learn 7 or 8 different ways to teach it. Right. But I think it's beautiful. I think it's an absolutely wonderfully elegant system. And yes, we can blame the French.
Yeah.
But man, it is a really cool concept.
Yeah. And I like I guess the overall match score idea of the numbers. It's more the in-game scoring that I probably have more of a problem with. But you're right. I think what is amazing about the scoring of tennis is that sometimes the 6-2, 6-2 score doesn't tell the complete story of the match.
Sure.
If you were charting a match and broke that down, that match could have been separated by 10 points. You never know. I mean, I'm not doing the math correctly there, but I mean, you could have a 6-2, 6-2 match.
Sounds about
Every
right.
single game goes to deuce, or I mean, the chances of it being 8 points, you get my drift.
Yep.
But the 2 games that you won could have been 40-love games, and all of a sudden those total point scores could actually level out a little bit. But that side of it, like more of the end game thing, I have a problem with the unique.
So what if we go? What did we do? We did the no ad scoring where it was simply 1, 2, 3, and then the next point 1. We could do 1, 2, 3, and then do either deuce an advantage or tied an advantage.
Yep.
If we just take out 15, 30, 40, if we just take out those words, and still keep the tie. So I'm not playing a game where it's all right, 7-6, 7 all, 8-6. That's I like the tied versus advantage because you're not worried about figuring out what number you're on.
Yep.
But maybe we just take out 15, 30, 40. Call it 1, 2, 3, still have the deuce concept, and we still get to keep that flow. And you're right. My response was more to the overall scoring, the set concept. I think personally it's hockey. I think hockey should be won in the same way. You need to win 2 out of 3 quarters.
Hey, there you go.
Are there 3 quarters?
Three periods.
Periods. That's right. Quarter didn't sound right. Why are there only 3 quarters? That's how much of a hockey guy I am.
It's that you just did the same as like a calling it a soccer game instead of a match.
Yeah.
Same type of deal there.
So you got to win 2 out of 3 quarters in a hockey match.
Well, and it's funny that you said it the way that you did. That's actually one of the ways that I coach kids who are really struggling with the 15, 30, 40 flow is that I will let them play a game and call it 1-0, 1-1. And that also helps teach with the whole odd and even.
Sure.
Of even being on the deuce, odd being on the ad.
Yep.
And it is an easier way to maybe once they get that down and understand what side of the court they're serving to and where they're receiving, then you start getting more into the 15-34 and the proper scoring. It's a little bit easier because some kids, I mean, they just look at it, they're baffled. But if you just use basic numbers, it's a little bit easier to coach.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bobby, you see the same thing at Windermere?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's always great when they start playing out or USTA. That's a lesson is dedicated to teaching them how to keep score, when to change sides on a tiebreaker. So yeah, But it also leads to the originality and uniqueness of tennis.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Absolutely.
That is true. It is unique.
Yeah. And I think I'd agree with you, Kip, on the blue lines. And I get where they're coming from, because if you've ever tried to play on a full court with pressureless tennis balls, it's really difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even with an adult tennis racket, hitting a ball that far isn't that easy.
No.
But then also you end up with, it's not like soccer. They learn a different scoring on a different side. I mean, the soccer court is obviously smaller,
right?
And you don't have to win a half to, like winning a set, but you're not learning a completely different thing when you age up.
Sure.
You're right. It's like the 8 and under tennis it's scored and it's sized and it's using different equipment than the very next level. And then the same thing when you go up. So we've created 4 different concepts.
Yeah.
The kids have to learn as they progress.
Yeah. And I mean, and I get it. And I know that they looked at other sports, right? I mean, they looked at football, and you look at Pee Wee football and know it's not a 100-yard field, right? They shorten the field up. Basketball, they use half courts instead of full courts. So I understand the philosophy of it, but I think that was something in other sports that have been doing that for a very long time, where tennis, to me, because I grew up playing probably with a racket that was much bigger than I was. And then also at the same time, a court being regular size, you learned how to hit the ball. And I don't mind the ball system and the ball colors, but man, the lines are tough, because I see a lot of kids that I coach, and the kids that can really hit the ball and strike the ball well, struggling to keep the ball within the blue lines. And I think it's almost a detriment to your better players, where it does give an advantage to a kid who's can't hit it as well. So I guess that's my biggest pet peeve from a coaching aspect.
And you see that consistently with the orange dot balls on the 60-foot court. They're still struggling because those balls don't go all that far.
No, they don't go that far. But I mean, you gotta. I've got a couple 7-8-year-olds that can really hit the ball well. And just watching them kind of struggle, when I think they've hit from a coach's eye, wow, you really struck that well, and it still went 1.5 feet out.
Yeah.
You're almost like, so here now from a control standpoint and maybe slowing it down a little bit. Yeah, there's some coaching advantage there to help them. Hey, but at the same time, when you watch and strike it well, God, that shouldn't have gone out.
You want to encourage it, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess that's my big beef with it.
So that takes me to something that Bobby and I talk about a lot. And this one I didn't send you ahead of time. I am curious what you think about this. I'm not worried about whether or not the ball's in or out, because I want these kids not competing. I want them perfecting their technique. So from my point of view, I have a lot of our 10 and unders and 8 and unders with orange dot balls that are kind of playing on a full size court. I'm not worried about the blue lines at all, because I'm actually encouraging them not to go play tennis matches. I'm encouraging them not to go toward leagues, because I watch them, and as soon as they start keeping score, their technique is right out the window.
Yep.
Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that even more with more of my teenage kids than I see it with my younger kids, especially young ladies, of almost struggling more in match play and getting a little bit more conservative. But to stay on topic and talk about, with the lines, I agree with you. And it's probably something I don't discuss too much with the kids in lessons. It's more internal that bothers me about the lines. And I even like to mix in using different versions of, if a kid's a red dot ball, I mix in green and also orange. Sometimes I even have a practice with real ball, just so they adjust to it or I guess exposed to it earlier on. So it's not such a shock to their system when they start playing with it, and even do some real court at times. So I like your philosophy of not really worrying about the balls being in or out, but perfecting the form.
That's something Bobby and I talk about a lot. And I know that goes against, and this is one of the concepts within this podcast that we want to be able to have this conversation, because I know USPTA isn't necessarily going to agree, and USPTA in the same way. They want kids in leagues because that's what they do.
Right.
So to have any coaches saying, all right, guys, the longer you don't play a match, the better your technique will become ingrained, and your long-term benefits of your coaching, I think, are more efficient that way. Right. I don't know that we get a good response from USPTA or USTA if we start making comments like that.
I would agree.
By we, I mean me. So I'll take complete credit for making that comment.
They're trying to grow the game, right? So, and that is, and them just practicing doesn't involve them. So you're right. I mean, they want them in leagues as much as possible. And that's why you see so many flex leagues and everything else popping up now. Everybody's coming up with a new way to play tennis, but at the end of the day, I've always just, I guess one of the taglines, it's just tennis, let play it the way it should be played.
Not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
Come on. But Bobby, what was the comment from what was it? The thing we attended, the conference, of like trying to convince yourself that you're really important. That goes against, hey guys, it's just a sport.
Yeah, well, the coaches, so much of it is coach driven. How can we make it? It's our failing. And I was like, that's a lot to put on us, and without acknowledging there's another player involved. You're over exaggerating your importance, and you're under. Hopefully, if your player becomes a star, that you have a bigger role in it.
Yeah,
I believe in Nick Bollettieri. He looks for the kid who's the most competitive, because that's an impossible thing to teach. Yeah. I can teach your forehand. I cannot teach you. I cannot give you heart. And
can't teach contempt.
Yeah. And
not that you'd want to, but it's the Bobby Fischer had contempt for his opponents. It's that I'd rather, what was the phrase? And forgive the figure of speech, but I'd rather spit on you than lose to you. And you'd see two brothers, and you see the one kid that was like, I'm not losing to this other kid. And the other kid was the nice kid. It was like,
yeah,
I like the nice kid better as a person, but he's not going to go as far as the kid that just hates to lose.
Well, and the Williams sisters.
Yeah.
That's
true.
When Richard was interviewed, and Venus was the elder, she was coming on tour, and everybody was excited about Venus, and Richard looked at the camera and said, yeah, but there's another one. It's home. That's as mean as a snake. Where do you see her? And, and here's Serena competing at 37, 38 years old. Skills are not what they were, but you're never going to find a better competitor, somebody who wanted to win, and even throw Jimmy Connors into the formula of that's how they won, contempt. We're going to show you. And I think that's a champion. They find different ways to win, but one of the more effective ways historically has been.
And my wife won't find that tolerable. She said, we're not teaching our children that. I mean, that's just not going to be how she's going to view the world. I'm like, okay, well, we'll never have a number one in the world tennis player as a child, which is fine. But some parents aren't going to want that for their children. And that's probably necessary, a necessary component. Probably not a thing that we deal with as we working with the 7-year-olds or the 14-year-olds that aren't necessarily on an ATP path.
No, and I mean, well, the other thing that you guys probably find too is not being afraid to put your kids in a position to fail. I enjoyed probably getting my teeth kicked in at an early age and playing 18 and unders when I was 12 and 13, playing Alta, because Alta, at that age, and we all went through this, if you were a good tennis player back when we played Alta, junior Alta, you won a lot. The competition was and there were so many kids playing at that time, and the levels were so all over the place that your win percentage was probably 90% plus. And you finally,
like you said, playing on the 18 and under team, I was the 12-year-old on the 16 and under team, not because I was just that good, but because the talent wasn't quite there in Alta yet.
Absolutely. And I still can remember some city final matches of, and y'all probably don't remember this name. And I haven't heard his name in forever. I'm just thinking about him now. But I mean, the first city finals I won at probably 11 or 12, and I beat Murphy Payne, who used to play out of Indian Hills. And I beat him in the finals. I'd never beat the kid ever. I played him in several tournaments, never beat him. And on this day, man, I couldn't miss, and beat him 8-3 down at the Cobb Tennis Center.
That's a good feeling.
You know, to win the city finals, and I'll never forget that memory. But you know, my parents at an early age were playing different sports too, and competing. You know, we wanted to go outside the box. I wanted to go play in tournaments and get beat. You know, and that was okay. But now you see a lot of kids.
Type. You have to be able to handle that.
Well, and that was back to y'all's point too, of like with the Bollettieri, you know, theory of that competitiveness and that hunger and that everything else. Because now with our society, we want to keep our kids in certain areas, not just tennis, where they succeed, and not let them step out of that little bubble. And
yes.
there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, I know lots of kids who they're taking private lessons, they're going to academies, but they're only playing in flex leagues and outlet. They're not playing in tournaments. They're not going to compete against the big dogs. And to me, I think I guess it depends on the goal, but I always ask a kid early on, and the parents, what's the end game here? What are we striving for? Are we just trying to stay in shape? Do we just want to be introduced to the game? Do we want to make the high school team? Are we going for a college scholarship? And usually it's one of those things, right? I mean, every once in a while you got the parent who thinks their kid's the next Andre Agassi or, you know, Serena or Venus Williams. But I mean, I don't see that as much as I used to.
Sure. So we're closing it down. I'm at a hard stop at 2:00. My wife needs her studio back. At this point, Kip, you've tolerated us, and it sounds like you're similar to us, that we could probably go on for another few hours if we really wanted to. And thankfully the weather timed itself well for our conversation, because none of us are itching going, I should be on the court right now. I should be on the court with the rain. Nope. is how it is. But now's your time for self-promotion. And we've got 4 minutes. What's OTR doing on the rise? What's your deal? What's your world?
Yeah, kind of cranked this back up. I found myself back coaching tennis full time. I've always stayed in it, but just recently with COVID and everything else, and furloughed from my old job, started On the Rise Tennis. So I'm owner operator out here in Sewanee, Georgia. Got a little 4-court facility. I'm probably unique, and I've got high performance kids. I've got brand new beginners. I got cheerleaders, lacrosse players. I've got adults, beginners to, you know, intermediate to high level. I teach a little bit of everything. So you can find, I've got a website being built now, but from a social standpoint, everything you can find at Kip Cobb Tennis. And that's literally the 10 spelled out. So at Kip Cobb 10S. And those are everything from Twitter, YouTube, everything can be found there. And I do have a Facebook page that's on there as well with that same tagline, and we'll have a website up shortly.
Good. I was wondering, I checked out the website as well, and I found an On the Rise Tennis in Minnesota or something, but I assumed that wasn't you.
No, that's not me. It will be soon, though. It will be mine soon. Yeah, there is. I think that's no LLC concept in Georgia. That's right. There is no LLC in Georgia. It looks like the 2 previous owners are no longer, from what I can find.
That's next. I like it. That's good. Got to have that going. Got to have the website. I see your Facebook presence is pretty good. We interact quite a bit. I like your drop shot challenge and things like that. That's a lot of fun.
Got to make it fun, man. Got to keep it interesting.
Absolutely. And I think this is the kind of thing that'll help a lot of us, because like I said, I'm saying it a lot because I want to change as much of the culture as I can. I did this with my own business in the extracurricular world in preschools and elementary schools. It was very, I know cutthroat sounds, you know, hyperbolic, but it was, what's mine is mine. And, you know, like there's no cooperative nature of we're here for the kids or we're here for the families. And the concept now that I have, which is how can we help you? How can Ankle Biters, as an example, help On the Rise? How can Windermere partner with what you're doing in the neighborhoods there? How can we all be friends rather than worried about this is my client and this is your client?
Man, I'm open and I'm all game for that. I encourage kids to take from other coaching and because I think I might say something differently to a kid than you are, and sometimes it just connects. So I'm always open to doing things and you know, working together. I've never had the philosophy of, oh, this is my kid, he can't go anywhere else or whatever else. So same thing with adults, I mean, it's, look, go get a different opinion. And I love that. So I encourage it. And I love working with you guys and really appreciate y'all having me on.
And that's a good jumping off part for another day, Kip, because of the position in Atlanta. We're just not kid based. We see a lot of the same things, scenarios, but they're playing out with adults, which brings in an entirely different set of egos and management of people. So it makes for an interesting occupation for us down here, and another day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we'll bring him. We'll bring Kip back as well. I really appreciate you making time. It's a fun new type of conversation, which is, hey, let's, if I'm being honest, let's actually be honest as we do this, and we'll definitely do it again. But I appreciate you guys making time.
And Sean, if I could give a quick shout out, because we mentioned his name quite a bit, just to give us all some props, because he's a great guy. So everybody knows Billy Pate got me my first job as well. Kip he's a mentor of ours. Billy was a former head coach at Alabama, and he's the current head tennis coach at Princeton. So we had a pretty good mentor to learn from.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully Billy will join us someday as well. But so
let's
just
bring him on.
Kip learned from one of the better ones that are out there in the industry. So
sure did.
We appreciate you coming on, Kip.
Yeah, we'll have to do a segment with some Billy Pate stories. I've got some good ones down at Nationals in Corpus Christi. He's taught me a lot.
We'll have a full Billy Pate episode.
You have a couple of interesting contemporaries. Jonathan Fralick or Spencer Reed mean anything to you?
Yes, I was just coaching Spencer's daughter out here not too long ago. Spencer, Ricky Bowers. Do you remember Ricky?
My Lord.
Ricky Bowers. How about Cord Schwartz?
Yes. Ricky and Spencer, they can't be, because this is going to be PG. So we're going to keep it there. We'll keep them out of it. But
my freshman year, it was Spencer, Ricky Bowers, Jim Harp, and myself, all on the same team. If that gives you all of us living together, hanging out together, those are good times.
Yes.
I want to hear about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that for sure. But
definitely
we got to run
our show.
Oh, okay. We'll have to put a parent advisory on that one.
That's right.
Exactly.
But I appreciate it, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Have a great week.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.